All right, welcome back to the Blueprint to Ultra podcast with your host, Steve Epifano and Jeff Winchester. Listen, our goal with this podcast is to help you put together your own plan for your next ultra. And we do that by interviewing a variety of guests of all shapes, sizes, and ages that kind of help us to learn from their experiences. And we believe if you take those stories and take those experiences, that you too can add something to your own blueprint for your next ultra. So before I get into talking about a guest, I do need to say one thing. We are moving towards episode 25. That's the episode you're listening to now. And then after that is episode 26, which happens to be our last episode, not ever, but of our first year. And so we're going to be celebrating 1 year in the month of October. And so we invite you to make sure you listen to that episode as well, because we may or may not be doing a giveaway with that particular guest that we've got coming on. And so please check that out also. Now, more importantly, because we want to stay in the moment that we are, is our guest today is an incredible runner. And I say that out of pure respect. Now, he has been on the ultra scene for 8 years. I say that intentionally. He has been in the ultra scene now for about 8 years because he started as a pacer for his mom in the early years and didn't start running in his own races until May of 2024, where he ran his first 50 miler. Now, he ran that in May. And then he ran another 50 miler a couple months later because he had to have those as qualifiers to run the Bear 100 1 month after that one. It's insane. So get this. He ran 2 50 milers, 1 100 miler in a span of 5 months in his first year of running ultras. So not a lot of us can say that. It's an impressive set of races for most in the sport, let alone in their first year. This year, he is taking on the Rocky Mountain Slam, which consists of 4 100-mile races, all of them very tough, all of them with some significant elevation, and all of them in mountains. So he's also completed 2 of them already. He's already done 2 of them in the month of June, 2 weeks apart. We're going to talk about that. So if you want to hear about how you manage recovery, training to take on 4 mountain races, the mental stamina that it takes, and the importance of not panicking when you don't hit your goals, particularly with your time, and how to keep moving forward, we want to invite you to take time and listen to today's show. Oh, and I failed to mention one very, very important fact. Last year when he finished the Bear 100, he happened to be, 17 years old as the second youngest finisher of that race. That's just insane. And I say that out of respect and out of just inviting you to learn from somebody where I will say to you that youth has been served, and I think we can all learn from that. So without much further wasting your time, if you're listening to this intro thinking, what are we doing? We'd like to invite our guest today, Mr. Adam Wolf, to the show. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we're really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, told you it was going to be a long intro.
We got through it.
But we got through it. So, Adam, again, it is just incredible what you did in your first year in 2024. The fact that you ran those. Now, I joked in the intro, I alluded to the fact you've been doing it for 8 years, which means at the age of 10, you paced your first ultra with your mom, from what I understand. Now, I'd like to kind of start a little bit with this. How did you get into running? Can you kind of take us to this? Because not a lot of 16, 17-year-olds are running ultras, let alone now 18. They're not doing that. So how did you get into the sport? How did your mom convince you at that age to kind of get going?
Yeah, so really, it wasn't my mom convincing me at all. It was my choice. So we'd always been a active outdoor family. We'd love hiking and just being outdoors. And as far as when I got started, it actually goes way back to when my mom started. So she started with just 5Ks and just 10Ks, half marathons, all that. And she eventually found ultras. And by that point, it was, I can't remember the exact year when she found them, but we'd just seen her finish the races and all that, and just do these all sorts of crazy races. I remember, I think it was 2017, she did Speed Goat 50K and just some races like that. She also did the Bear that year, which was the first year that I started pacing her. And like I said, we loved just hiking in that and just seeing all of the runners at the Bear. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So I can't remember my initial thought process back then because it was 8 years ago, but I was like, oh, well, that's awesome. I want to pace. It's only 9 miles because I just did the final 9 of the Bear. And really it just kept on building off that. Year after year went from 9 miles to 15. And then she DNF'd the next year in 2019 and then took a few years off. And at that, excuse me. And at that point, she called herself retired. She's like, well, I'm kind of done with ultras. Like she'd done several races.
Mhm.
So by that point, like she was done. And then COVID hit. So that was really the nail in the coffin. And then in 2022, we convinced her to do the bear again. And the more I think about that year, it's probably the most important year because that year I paced 28 miles. And then in 2023, I did 42. And then it led to me wanting to do the bear in 2024.
That's awesome. Your first pacing duty was at the age of 10, which is incredible. And then you said you did 9 miles that one. And I think
Yeah.
being a hiker and a through hiker, I think it lends itself really well to ultra running for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know many 10-year-olds that are out there doing a 9-mile pacing
That's true
event.
too.
Like,
Yeah.
I know you said it was only 9 miles, but I'm thinking that's a lot for
Yeah.
a 10-year-old. That's
But for a
ton.
10-year-old, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then you said, how many did you do in 2022? You said 28, I think you said?
I was 28 in 2022. And then the next year, I remember I sent my mom a text one day and I was like, hey, because we were talking about the bear and just upcoming miles. I'm like, hear me out. Can I do 50? And I was 16 at the time. And she's like, yeah, well, I'll give you a little more. And a 16-year-old wanting to do 50, it's like, yeah, that's a lot. So I got the 42. It was from Right Hand Fork to, I think it was Beaver Lodge. Can't remember exactly where, but it was 42 as the night section. So, and by that point, like it was a lot. And I had the idea before that, like before I did the 42, I was like, well, maybe if it goes well, I'll do the 100 next year, the full race. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, man, that was a lot. But I mean, if I were to train for 100, then I'm like, well, I could do 100. So a couple months after I did the 42, I was like, well, you know what? Registration's here in 2 months. Let's see what happens.
So what is it about wanting to do the bear race yourself? Like why that particular race as your first?
For that one being my first, it's mainly just because it's the one that got me into ultras. Like I paced my mom on it 3 years. It meant a lot to me, still means a lot to me. It's still probably my favorite because of that reason.
Nice.
But yeah, just being at the bear for 7, 8 years, I don't know, it's got a special place in my heart for sure.
Yeah. And did it take any convincing? Did it take to convince your mom to let you do the 100?
Surprisingly not. It's because since I did the 42 and I was asking for more, I think by that point she's like, well, I mean, he's seen most of the course. Really, the only parts I hadn't seen were just the start to like mile 35, because that's where you can't have pacers. I'd seen almost the rest of the course because the first couple of years I paced, it was the back half of the race. And then when I started pacing more miles, it was the middle, it was the night section. Because by that point, funny enough, my brother and sister, it rubbed off on them a tiny bit. So they'd paced the 9 miles that I originally did. And they haven't like added up miles like I did. But it was pretty fun it was a family effort. Everybody wanted to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had to, in 2024 is when you ran the Bear 100. And in order to do that, you ran 250 milers. Obviously at that point, if I'm your dad or whatever, I'm thinking, okay, he just did the 250 milers. He's serious about this. Now, again, I said that they were pretty close together. And within a span of 5 months, you ran the 250s and then the Bear 100. But we're going to talk about the Rocky Mountain Slam and the closeness of races there. So I want to just take just a few minutes to talk about the Bear 100 in 2024 that you said at the beginning, or you mentioned before the show rather, that you ran with your mom, and it was an important race for you in a lot of ways. And so it was your first 100-mile race. Now, I know your mom DNF'd that race and everything, but for you, as you went through that experience and her struggle, like what was that like for you to kind of finish your first race, knowing your mom wasn't able to finish it, but like for you, how did that go?
Yeah, so like for me, I knew the ultimate goal was to finish, whether or not mom was with me or not. And I mean, the goal was to have both of us cross because it's the race that got me into ultras. So it definitely stung when she dropped, but her stomach was going downhill. We knew that she'd need the full 36 if she wanted to finish. So she ended up dropping, and like I mean, yeah, it hurt mentally a little bit, but it didn't change my motive and my goal just because I'd worked so hard, and what I'm there to do.
Did you guys run together for as much of that race, or did you guys do your own race?
Yeah. So because I'll just back up a little bit. So my first 50 that I did, it was the Salt Flats 50. That was the prerequisite for the bear. And then I did the White Pine 50 later on just to get ready for the bear. But for the Salt Flats, I had a goal in mind. The youngest person, well, I tied the youngest. I was 16 at the time. And I wanted to beat the record of the other 16-year-old. It was like 9 hours and like 39 minutes or something like that. And my goal was, okay, let's try and beat that. So mom actually cut me loose at mile 23. So we did the first 23. And then she's like, okay, you can go for it. Go get the goal. And I actually beat the record by about 8 minutes. So I got 9:29. So she cut me loose on that race. For White Pine, she was slowing down a bit. She had some stomach issues and it rained a little bit. And she even told me, she's like, hey, you can go off and just finish on your own. Especially, so we saw Ryan Head cross, or he just passed us on that race. It was just a few miles out. She's like, hey, you want to go with him? Like, you know him? Like, anyway, she was just trying to shoo me off. I'm like, hey, like, time's not the goal here. And so, yeah, I stayed together with her on that. And then same with the bear, because the bear, most importantly, just because that's the race that got me into ultras. So we took some climbs slow. We stayed at Tony for probably about an hour. Tony's the halfway mark. So we stayed there for a while debating if she was going to drop or not. And ultimately she did. But yeah, so most of the time we'll do the races together.
Yeah. So, God, you said something I thought was just fascinating. So tell me again. So the second race, what was the name of that race again?
It was White Pine 50.
Now, so for the White Pine 50, let me back up. For the Salt Flats, you said for that one, you were competitive in it. And then for the White Pine 50, you opted to stay with your mom because time wasn't the goal. Now, it struck me as two diametrically opposed type ideas here. Like all of a sudden I hear this kid who says he is, being competitive. And the next moment he's now saying time's not the goal. That was being more important for you to finish with your mom. And I thought, like, that's a huge level of maturity in your race, and even how you approach your race. And so that's only the second race that you had at that point. And to actually have that kind of mindset, I think is huge. And there's a lot of runners that can't do that. Like there's a lot of runners that are listening to this. They think if I'm going to be competitive, then that's just how I'm going to approach every race. You see your friend Ryan, who we've had on the show before, you do know him and stuff, and he went by you. Like if a competitive side of you is going to kick in, it's going to be, I'm going to run with him because he's going faster and I know I can stay with him, or I'm going to hang out back here with my mom, and because that was our original goal. And that's maturity. Like that's really cool to hear. And so like when you were saying, I was like, pause. Like that's just a lot of people don't do that. So now the Bear 100, Steve, go ahead.
One other thing. Yeah. So if you don't know where the White Pine course is, it's actually a part of the Bear course. The reason why we chose that is because it's a loop. It goes by Tony Grove, and it's a part of the Bear course. It was a warm up, just getting ready for the Bear, getting some vert in, just kind of being in the area.
Now it makes more sense because I'm like, you did that a month before and you didn't have to. Like that's insane.
Super smart again to get out on the course.
Yeah, it is, right?
Race environment. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Steve, I love that you asked earlier if y'all run together, because I was thinking a very similar thing, particularly in the Bear 100, when you decide that you're going to move on and she's going to not make it. Like, as a parent, I could see that conversation being hard, but also something she's going to want to do. As a son of a parent that may want to do something like this, how did that make you feel when it's like, we're now going to split off from this race? Like, how did you go through that moment?
Yeah, that part was pretty rough just because like the goal was to finish together and the goal was not to separate. But we talked about it prior to the race. We're like, hey, if one of us has to separate, whether or not if it was like me having to like leave mom or vice versa, it wasn't going to affect, and I feel rude saying this, but like we had the goal set. If we could finish together, then awesome. But if not, then we'll see you later. But
so pause. That's not rude. Your mom, if she's listening to this, which she's probably going to listen to this.
Well, she will.
Mom, you're listening, right? I'm not cutting this part out, I don't think at all, because It's not rude. Like that's what ultra runners understand, that when we run together, like there's a lot of people who say they're going to run a race with one another. And as a coach, and Stevie, I'm sure you say the same thing. I tell my runners, hey, that's cool and all, but at some point, one of you may have a bad day. And so you've got to be okay saying bye. And it's not rude. It's just reality, because it's really hard to finish an ultra. It's really hard to finish side by side.
Yeah. And see, there's actually a sweet ending to that, because she dropped and went back to the hotel, got some rest, got her stomach under control. And she actually came back at, I think it was mile 75 so she went from a racer to a pacer. So she actually paced. Really cool. So that's she actually paced mile 75 to 85. And I didn't expect it. Like we pulled up to Beaver Lodge and she's standing there with her running gear on. I'm like, okay. I didn't have a pacer for that part. We talked about me just doing that part alone, because it'd be day at that point almost, or having Dad keep on, because Dad paced me throughout the night, which was also a little bit easier, saying, hey, we'll see you later, because they weren't okay. Let me back up, because Dad was planning on pacing regardless, whether or not Mom dropped out or not. Because they don't want me out there just by myself in the middle of the night. And for all three of us, it was a little easier. It's like, hey, you go take care of yourself if you need to drop. It still hurt a lot mentally, because it's like, oh man, well, there goes the goal. But just for my parents, it was a little easier for them, just being like, hey, Adam's going to be with Dad. It's all right. Like, he's not, like, we've got a pacer on duty. So
that's nice. Hey, Steve, Mr. and Mrs. Wolf are making us look like bad parents.
Yeah, my kids are definitely not into it for sure. Yeah, anyway. But I can take credit for getting my mom into ultra running.
There you go.
I'll do that.
The same thing. There you go. Yeah. Super impressive. No, it really, really is. And I love that your mom had the legs to come back to pace you. I think that's incredible, just thinking about it, because that's hard to do. Like, that's really hard to do.
Especially after 50 already.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Physically, it's really hard to do, which tells you how important it was for her as well, it's awesome. Yeah. But when we put together this content of where we wanted to go in talking to you, we saw this Rocky Mountain Slam. The reason we reached out to you is like this guy is going to be running this Rocky Mountain Slam, which is a pretty hard series of races, if you will. So I'm going to kind of give, for those who are listening, some context about it. You can correct me if I say anything wrong. Please do. Don't hesitate. But my notes say that this is the Rocky Mountain Slam. It's one of the hardest ultra marathon series out there. For those who don't know what this is, it's a series where you complete 4 specific 100s between June and September in the same year. There's 8 different races you can choose from. However, of those 8, one has to be the Bear 100, which is where we're going with this entire journey, where we started and where we're going, right? It is mandatory. And it's also the final race in the series of 8 possible races. So you can pick 3 of the other 7 ones. Those 7 other races are the Scout Mountain 100, the Bighorn Trail Run 100, Hard Rock, Ouray, Wyoming Range, Leadville, Wasatch, and then, of course, the Bear is the last. Now, our good friend Adam has already run 2 of these. He ran Scout Mountain on June 6th, and he then ran the Bighorn on June 20th. Up next, he has the Wasatch 100 on September 5th, and then the Bear 100, which is September 26th, which is 3 weeks after that. Now, this episode that you are listening to is released, and so, Adam, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but this episode is going to be released after you finish Wasatch, but before the Bear.
Yeah.
So people that are listening to this, like, let's go see on Instagram, did he finish Wasatch? The answer to that question we know is going to be yes. And then we're going to follow him along to see what he does at the Bear. So let's just talk about this. Scout Mountain has 22,000 feet of gain. Bighorn has 20,500 feet of gain. Wasatch has over 24,000, and the Bear has 22,000. All total, 90,000 feet of gain minimum in 4 months.
Yeah.
You know, no big deal.
I'm terrified for you. So I don't know where I really want to begin, other than just saying that I'm in awe of just what you've done. However, let's kind of start with the 2 races first. You just did the 2 races back in June. Of those 2, which would you say was the hardest of the 2?
Probably Scout Mountain. It was definitely a lot hotter and steeper. Yeah, it was probably about as hot as Bighorn. I mean, Bighorn, like it was a little bit cooler because the cloud cover, but they were both in the 80s. It was pretty warm. I think Scout was like mid to high 80s, and Bighorn with the cloud cover was like high 70s, low 80s.
Still
I can't
warm.
exactly remember, but it was pretty warm.
Yeah, that's
And
warm.
then the difference between the two was Scout had a lot more like, how do I put this? It was definitely steeper in areas. Bighorn, a lot of the vert, it was just gradual over time. We had a 17
Hmm.
mile climb in the middle of it. So, and like you only gained like 5,000 from that through the 17,
That's
but
it.
I mean it was
No big deal.
gradual, but Scout Mountain, it just had a bunch of steep climbs. Like the final, like, oh, how far back was it? The final like 15 miles or so of Scout, maybe final 20, I can't remember, but it had like 5 or 6,000 in the first or in the final, like a little bit of that course. And you're at mile 90 going up one of the steeper mountains in the course. And yeah, so that race had some pretty rough moments just because of the terrain and just kind of where they placed the hills. Luke, the race director, is really, really rough when it comes to picking those hills. There's one at mile 66 that you could just look up and just see the flags. It's like, really, Luke?
It's a steep grade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, steep grade.
Yeah. So Scout was steep, but the climbs were short. And then Bighorn, the climbs were not as steep, but they just went on forever.
I left off an important fact about these races and about you, and that is that these races, in general, all average above 5,000 feet of altitude. Now, past
Yeah.
episodes, we've been talking about altitude and the impacts of altitude and how do you train and prepare for those things. And that is an issue for those of us that live pretty far below 5,000 feet. Now, I did a little bit of crazy psycho stalking of you, and I've noticed on Ultra Sign Up, you live in a place called Syracuse, Utah. I then looked up Syracuse, Utah, and says it's a little over 4,000 feet at altitude is where you currently
Yeah.
live, which means from everything I've ever studied about ultra running and about the sport, that is the sweet spot. Like if
Yeah,
you
you're
can
kind
live
of
in that
perfect.
area, yeah,
Yeah.
like you can't live in a better area for altitude, I guess, acclimatization or whatever it is, like being able to get used to it and being able to train at these levels and come up and down for it. So your body is well positioned for that type of running. And so for those who are listening, if you're going to run a race that's that high, then you definitely want to get some training in if you're not used to living there or if you're not experiencing it, because you will need to adjust. You can listen to some of the previous episodes where we talked about it, or you can check out AI, which is everybody's latest friend. So 2 weeks apart.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
That's the bombshell, that one.
Yeah, because the next two are they're 3 weeks apart, which is so much longer.
Yeah.
And so
You get a little rest.
Yeah, a little bit.
so most people target 100 in a year, sometimes 2 or 3, but they're spread out across months. Like they at least have some space between them for most people. There are those who do attempt to do this and they find it very challenging. So we have to learn from you, because people who look at these types of events, these types of series, there's also the Grand Slam of Ultra that's out there that exists, and all those run in the same summer as well. Like this is a thing for people who want to do these series of hundreds, but it is also mind-bogglingly difficult. Like, how do you recover? What did it look like between the Scout and the Bighorn race, the 2 weeks? What did you do?
A lot of resting.
What does that
I
look
was
like? Like sleeping all day long? What like?
no. So I'm pretty fortunate with my recovery time. I'm able to bounce back pretty quick. Like after the bear last year, I was back to cross country within 4 to 5 days. And I actually ran cross country regions 11 days after the bear. So I can bounce back pretty quicker than most people. I guess that's just youth on my side. But for Scout and Bighorn, because it's only 2 weeks, like you don't have much time. So like I did like 2 like 4 mile runs in between those races. That was it. Like the rest of it's just resting. And I mean, that 2 weeks, it kind of spooked me a little bit, because when I was planning out the series, because I guess I should back up a little bit, just if you guys want me to explain like kind of what got me into
100%. We want to know why you're choosing to
that was
do
one of
something
our
like
questions.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
how did you pick it, and how did you pick the races?
yeah, so last year after the bear, I was deciding what I wanted to do this year. I knew I wanted to do the bear again in Wasatch. Then I was thinking, I'm like, well, I could do like Salt Flats 100 or something like that earlier on in the year. And I was just kind of thinking of what races. And throughout last year, there's a lady who lives in Ogden. She ran the Rocky Mountain Slam last year. Her name's Tara Warren. And she's like the local legend of like Utah. She's just after the slam. Yeah, she was making big headlines in that. But anyway, so I was watching that throughout last year and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. She's doing all sorts of cool races in that. And then when I was thinking of doing bear and Wasatch, I was like, well, I mean, I wanted to do a race earlier on in the year, like Salt Flats or Bighorn or something. And I was like, well, if I do those three, what if I just add one more? And keep in mind, I've only done 100 to this point.
Oh, I know.
Like one.
Yeah.
So I eventually just throw out the idea. It was about New Year's. I mentioned the idea to my parents. I'm like, hey, hear me out. What if we just, what if we just throw in like Scout Mountain or like Wyoming Range or something? And I was thinking of Wyoming Range, but then I found out it's pretty infested with bears. So my parents are like, yeah, that's probably not the best idea. So then we moved on to the Scout Mountain idea. And I'm like, well, it's 2 weeks apart, but it'd work. And like the other tricky thing is the other races like Hard Rock or Wasatch, Ouray, like they're all lotteries. And I mean, Wasatch was pretty easy to get in. I had like a 68% chance of getting in, something like that. But other races like Leadville or Hard Rock, like you're not getting in with only one ticket. So anyways, so that's kind of what got me to this point.
What did your parents say when you told them you wanted to do these four? Like you told me, you told them in January, but like, what did they say?
They definitely thought it was pretty wild. Like my mom knew that I wanted to do like bear and Wasatch, and they weren't really like phased too much by it at first. When I mentioned it, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we can like, we'll think about it. And then, cause really it wasn't, cause I was relying on Wasatch, and like we signed up for the bear, put the ticket in for Wasatch, signed up for Bighorn, signed up for Scout. And then it was just waiting on Wasatch. And it's like, well, I mean, if we get in, great. But if not, we'll just drop Scout. So we're not doing the two back to back. So got called on the live stream for Wasatch on February 1st. And that was the final piece of the puzzle.
That was it.
And then let's see, what was the question that we were on when I kind of diverted from that?
I have no idea. It was good though.
No, I think that was good. Yeah. I was just saying that was our assumption was the lottery, that it was hard to get into for those middle ones. That's why you picked these races.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we were on like we were on recovery for the last question, but
yeah, we're going to go back there. So you said that during the two races between Scout and between the Bighorn, you ran 2 4-mile runs and you did a lot of resting, a lot of sleeping and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned that after the Bear 100 in 2024, you went right back out to cross country, ran regionals, that you felt like you recovered really quickly. And I hear you say it because of youth, but I'm going to push to try to understand a little bit more. I find that runners who have some good foundational training can also recover pretty well too. So if you could, can you give me an idea of like what kind of volume of running were you doing typically the first 5 months of 2025 going in to Scout Mountain? Like what was a weekly average?
Going into Scout, it was a little tricky because I was still doing speed work for track. So like I wasn't able to get a ton of miles. Like I was able to get some here and there, but I was focusing on speed. I was trying to break 5 minutes in the mile at the time. Closest I got was 5:05. But so really I'm balancing speed work and distance, and really I'm getting the best of both worlds. But I think by the time we got to Scout, I was averaging like 40 or 50 a week. And before that it was like 30 to 40 just because of the speed work. Wasn't able to just get as many miles as I wanted to, especially on the trails. I was doing a lot on the road at the time. But once school was wrapping up at the end of May, I was able to start getting more miles in because all the races are wrapped up. So leading up to Scout, I was able to get a little bit more. But in the spring, it was a little more laid back.
I think that's smart, where you didn't try to force additional training outside of the speed work. You understood, or if you're working with somebody, they understood that, hey, this is what your focus is going to be on. And obviously you have a good aerobic base to hit that in the mile. But that's, again, a level of maturity where you're not panicking and saying, I have these 2 100-mile races. I have to be hitting 80 miles a week, regardless of the work I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. What about climbing? How did you train climbing?
Just really getting up on the trails when I can. At that time, it was just a lot of weekend trail runs, just getting up on some of the bigger peaks nearby, getting up at altitude a little bit. Yeah, now since I'm not in school, I'm able to hit the trails a couple times a week and just really whenever I want. Yeah, it's definitely easier now than it was then.
Did you have some sort of weekly goals for elevation or anything like that? Because some people target a certain amount each week.
I really should have a goal for elevation, but at the time it was just kind of, I mean, now I could have a goal, but I'm just trying to get whatever I can. So, yeah, I don't have a goal, but I really should, but it's just about getting the miles in. And
press pause. What? There is no should. There is no should here. Like there is there is no right or wrong. Like it's what you did and what you've done. It was successful. So we're just curious about like how you do that, because recovery is going to be dictated off your conditioning. How fast you recover is going to be based off how conditioned you are going into your races. It's just a fact. And so the fact that you can do 5-minute miles or 5:05, I'm not going to give you the sub 5 or anything like that, but for 5:05 for a mile, there's a lot of ultra runners that cannot hit that. That's very fast. And when you're not doing elevation or climbing, if you're doing speed work, you are kind of helping some of those same biomechanics. And so what we do, in particular for those who live in flat areas, we do try to do some treadmill work to get some elevation going, but we also do speed work to kind of get power in the legs as well. And so by doing the training that you did for track and everything, that actually helps you, even though it's not climbing, it is helping you develop power in your legs, which is critical. And so the magic number of miles per week, there isn't one.
Yeah.
And so I know that you're probably thinking, am I supposed to give the right answer here? Like, what's that supposed to be? Is there a certain magic number of miles? There's really not. It's whatever works best for you and what your body can absorb. And so like I tell the runners I work with, like, we're just going to kind of get the volume in that we can. We're going to get some time on our feet. We're going to get what we can, because we have things like work. We have things like school. We have things that get in the way. Just because you're young doesn't mean you don't have a life outside of running. You have other things going on. Yeah. And so that's just like everybody else. And so I tell them, don't worry about getting a certain mileage. We're going to get the training that we need to get you prepared. Now, I do want you to do the training to get us there, but it's not a magic number of hitting 80-mile weeks, 90-mile weeks, 100-mile weeks. Like that's not always the goal. Some it is, but they also have a longer track record of getting that foundation, that base up. So
yeah. And you're going to have rest days in that. Like you're constantly redlining it the whole time. You're going to have like dips in your performance. Like you don't need to constantly push yourself to the limits. I mean, rest days are good in that. So
absolutely.
Did you do any other kind of recovery? Like a lot of people do massage and Ormatech, all those types of things in those 2 weeks. Is there anything other little small tips and tricks? Are you a yogi?
A yogi? Oh, yoga?
A yogi. No. Yeah, like a yogi master. No. So yeah, nothing like that, huh?
No. In the 2 weeks, I was mainly just chilling, just using BioFreeze, just taking it easy, just really not pushing it. Okay, I did do something kind of stupid.
That's what we wanted to hear, Adam.
So we want to hear that, yeah.
Tell us the truth, Adam.
So I went camping with a buddy of mine literally the week after Scout. And this is 3 days after recovery. And we had a boat. We went wakeboarding. And I was feeling great at the time. I'm like, oh, my legs are like a little tender, like just on the quads. But like I was feeling like 90% better. And I may or may not have gone wakeboarding on the 3rd day of recovery. Went great though. I mean,
no, I don't think I'd be able to get up.
Yeah. Well, was the water cold? If the water was cold, that may have helped a little bit.
That was a little chilly, but
I mean, come on.
It was refreshing.
We both stopped. This was not helpful at all. All right. So now you did the Bighorn. You did not do any kind of specific training other than obviously the 2 4-mile runs. You took a lot of time off.
Yeah.
Now going from Bighorn, we're heading to Wasatch. So you've got a couple months here. Wasatch is on September 5th. We're looking at a roughly 2.5 months, 3 months of training most. What kind of training are you doing specific for the Wasatch?
For this race, definitely just hitting the trails as much as I can, just getting up at altitude, getting some vert in. And because this race, I think the highest point's like 10,500, like it gets pretty high.
It
So
does.
we've been able to do a couple of runs. We did there's a peak near us called Timpanogos. So we did that last month. It was beginning of the month. And that gets up to about 11,700, something like that. So
Mm.
we've been able to get up to altitude a few times. That's the highest we've gone. That's like an hour away from us, so we don't get over there too often. But yeah, really the past few months, just hitting the trails as much as I can, just making sure that the mileage is up. Because I mean, now I'm not doing speed work. Like, yeah, I'll do some road runs that are faster paced, but I mean, I don't need to train at a 6 minute
Yeah,
mile or 5 minute mile or anything now. So,
certainly not.
um,
And
yeah, so
you've been saying we are you training with your mom, or is there another group that you're training with, or
yeah, because my mom, like, she'll train with me because she's pacing me throughout all these. She's not running like the full
Mhm.
race after the bear in 2024 when she DNF'd. Kind of back to when I said during COVID, she kind of called herself retired. She's called herself retired again. And then I keep on saying, like, hey, like, Bob just did Badwater. He's 80. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, you got a couple of years here. But she's also done several races. So if she's ready to throw in the towel and call it good and just pace, then, well, that's what she's going to do. But I think she has missed it a little bit, but only time will tell. Maybe she'll give the bear a go again or do Wasatch or something, but we'll see. So she
Yeah, that's awesome.
still works out every day and just comes out on the trails with me, just gets ready to pace. Because for Scout and Bighorn, she's done like 30, 40 miles
Hmm.
of pacing. And it's kind of funny how the tables have turned.
It is. That's exactly
Yeah,
what I was going to
yeah, it's
say.
awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so she'll pace me and just, she needs to just be ready for it. So we'll go hit the trails together and yeah.
I think it's, I'll say it for you. So, Mom, Miss Wolf, whatever you want us to call you, we do want you to come back and run another race. We all want it. But
Yeah.
I also think it's great that she is pacing you. I think that, like you said, the tables have turned. I think it probably means a ton to her to be able to
Mhm.
do that for you as much as it meant for you to pace her when you were younger. Like, I just think there's a huge kind of feeling of just like circle, like, and being that
Yeah.
connected point with her that I think is huge. And so kudos to her. Again, Miss Wolf, if you're listening, kudos to you as well. I think it's just fantastic. Does she coach you as well, or does she just let you do your own thing?
She really just lets me do my own thing. Like
Mm.
she'll do her own workouts in the basement on the treadmill and that. And I just try and get on the trails as much as I can. She doesn't like me being out there alone, so like I'll go with a
Mhm.
friend or go with a group or just kind of do what I can. But yeah, so I don't have like she doesn't have a schedule for me. It's like, hey, like she's not my running coach. She doesn't have like a, okay, this is your easy day, this is your hard day. It's just kind of a, well, yesterday was a little harder, so I'll take today easier. Just anyways, so we're both kind of on our own training schedules and
Hmm.
yeah,
So
but
is that
whenever I want to do the trails, she'll come out and so stuff like that aligns.
so? Is that how you train? You train by feel?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I don't have like a set schedule. Like I don't have it planned out to like, okay, like in 2 weeks on this Wednesday, I'm going to do this or like, well, I guess I kind of do because like I have the group runs planned with Ryan Head on like the Saturdays and Wednesdays or
Mhm.
stuff like that. But I don't have things planned out on like a schedule. Like, okay, Monday's gonna be easy, Tuesday's medium. Like it's just kind of by feel,
I
but
think
it's worked
that's
out pretty
great.
well so far.
So I would say so. Just
Well,
running intuitively, you
yeah, well,
know.
I think that's important.
Yeah,
And, see, we talk about coaching all the time because we coach people, but I also get asked a lot, do you need a coach? And Adam, you're like proof that you don't. Like, you don't need a
yeah,
coach. Like, you can listen to your body, you can put some work in because you still have to put work in to prepare if it's
yeah,
Mhm.
something that's important to you, but you can trust how you're feeling. Now, the only time I caution on that is that sometimes when I'm in a higher volume block myself, if I trust how I feel, those moments where I don't feel like running are probably the days I need to go run. That's just a whole different conversation for a different day. So if you find yourself in that situation, now The other thing that I just out of curiosity and a problem, this is not all about your mom this entire episode, though it feels like a little bit now. Steve, could you imagine your mom pacing you, like, and then her telling you to keep going? Like, what does that conversation look like? I'm not even talking to you, Adam. Like, so you know what I'm saying? Like, Steve, like if you think about your mom and everything pacing you, if I think about my mom pacing me, which my mom can't pace me, but she's 80 something years old, but she's not Bob Becker either. But I think she would yell at me like
Oh yeah, I mean,
hard,
she's been telling me to go my whole life, keep going my whole life, so we wouldn't change out on the trail.
right? I mean, if I'm listening to this episode, I'm thinking, what would it be like for my mom to be my pacer, or my dad to be my pacer? Like both those could be an event in and of themselves, and yeah, I'm not sure what that would go like. So kudos again to you, Mr. Wolf, that you guys don't kill each other.
Yeah. It's
Everyone's like,
probably
yeah,
great. I mean, because I ran the Blackbeards 100 with my mom, and it was an awesome experience. I coached her from virtually because she's in North Carolina, and it was just being able to spend the 12 hours that we did spend together was great. So, like, when else do you
Yeah.
get to spend that much time with your parent one on one?
yeah.
Yeah.
But Steve, your mom is real nice.
Yeah, that's true too.
All right, where do we want to go next, Steve? I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah, I just have a question. So when maybe it's like two-part or multi-part, but when you're running the Scout, you finish, or you're running the Bighorn and you finish, are you celebrating these wins at all? Or like
Oh
you're
yeah.
celebrating these finishes, or are you just checking the box, wait? And are you also thinking about the next one, like as you're in it?
Yeah, so I'll just rewind to the bear again. So like that one was an absolute like just celebration. Like it's the first 100. Like just most runners will just collapse at the finish. They're like, okay, give me the buckle. I'm good. Let me sleep.
Yeah.
But no, at the end of the bear, like I was taking pictures. I was saying hi to friends and family. Like it's like I didn't even sit down. I was just having fun, enjoying the moment. And same kind of went with Scout. That one was more of a check the box compared to the bear just because the race now it was pretty coarse, but I hate the start time for that race because that race started at noon. So you're in the heat
Mm.
of the day. And same with Bighorn, it started at 9 in the morning. So I mean, it's not 6 in the morning like the bear. So like it's already getting pretty warm. But yeah, so for Scout, that was more of a check in the box because by the time I finished, I was up for 41 hours
Mm.
just because I was awake 6 hours before, finished just under 35 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that was more of a just a check box. But Bighorn, like it's the same thing. All these races, like I was just taking pictures, didn't sit down. Like it was still a celebration, but some of them, it's like, okay, like we need to get to the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of them have been a celebration. There's not one where it's like, hey, like put me to bed. I'm done with this. I mean, you're at the end. Like celebrate. It's what you've worked for.
So yeah, I think what we're looking at even there, Steve, if I'm understanding what you're trying to get at as well, is it's exhausting to run, mentally exhausting to run a single 100 race. You know, you did the
Yeah.
Scout Mountain race in 34 hours and 52 minutes. You then did the Bighorn 100 2 weeks later in 32 hours and 37 minutes. Like that's 67
Mhm.
hours of just time running, being a part of a race that, you know, it's almost 3 days. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot of time, and of those weeks, right? That's just a lot of time, and mentally it is draining. And so, a lot of runners are exhausted after this, and it's really hard to stay focused on what's next. And so, what we're trying to like, I don't even know how you do it, is stay mentally focused on a block of four, right? Or single unit. And it like to finish a single 100-mile race requires a single focus. To finish a
Mhm.
block of four is overwhelming mentally. So how do you stay mentally focused or focused on what you're trying to
Mhm.
accomplish?
I really just focus on what my goal is because, I mean, in the end, like the main goal, like finishing the Rocky Mountain Slam, being the youngest person to do that. And that's the ultimate goal. And in the moment, through the hard times, you just kind of need to just don't worry about the miles ahead. Just focus more about the miles that you're on. Just don't overthink it. Don't pay attention to the big climbs coming up. Just focus through getting through what you're on, and just keep in mind that you're there to accomplish the goal that you've been training for, and just to not let it slip out of sight.
So it dovetails perfectly into this thing in your email that you sent us. And you said one of the things you've learned is to not panic, right? When you don't come close to your goal. So how do you avoid panicking? And let me rephrase that. Like, how is that the thing you learned not to panic? What does that mean to you?
Mm.
It really just like if we have unexpected things come up, like during Bighorn throughout the night section, just coming down that 17-mile climb, like a lot of it was runnable, but during the night, you're just kind of slogging through the night, you're tired. And before that, I was keeping a really good pace up until when we went up the 17-mile climb. And then going down, I lost a lot of time too, just because it was the night. And mom was pacing me from the top of the climb down to the bottom. And she's like, "Hey, Adam, you're at a 34-hour finish time right now." And the cutoff was 35. And at that point, I was like, "Oh, that's not good." Like, I didn't panic, but like in my head, I was like, "Okay, that's just the alarms are going off," because it's like that's close. So I found another gear and brought that 34-hour time down to a 32 in a matter of a couple of hours, just taking the uphills pretty hard. So like you just need to like things won't go your way all the time, but I mean you just need to not panic and just try and get back on track.
I think that's huge.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think that's really hard to do. And the reason I like it is because panic is a word that a lot of people, when they hear it, they think to themselves, that seems so extreme. Say, don't panic, right? But it's real. Like I've DNF races, Steve. I don't know. You've never DNF, so you get to be excused from this conversation. But I've DNF races, and I would describe the emotion that comes into you as you're contemplating your existence in life is this feeling of panic. It's an overwhelming sense of anxiety and anxiousness of like, oh crap, like I don't know what I'm going to do. And you begin to kind of get super stressed out. And so if you can avoid that emotional ride that you begin to take yourself on, you can prevent, a DNF if you can pull that panic down and to not panic. And so it's a real emotion. I think it's true that a lot of people get super stressed out and they don't know how to respond in that moment. Like I said, I've done it. I've DNF'd. I've panicked myself out of one because I've done some sort of trail math or whatever it is, and I couldn't pull it off in my brain to make it happen. Your mom, will use her as an example, has DNF'd. It's because at some point she was overwhelmed because she couldn't get through her sickness and her gut was feeling she wasn't sure how to make sense of this moment to think it could finish or settle down. She didn't know how to bring that emotion down in that moment. Doesn't mean she can't do it any other time. It just means in that particular race, it was overwhelming. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Like that's just what happens to some of us. And so to have that wisdom to say, don't panic, it's true. Like, but the question comes in is like, how do you take that fear or that stress and say, okay, I'm not going to panic. Like, how do I bring it back down when I'm in the middle of it? And you may not know, like, it may just be a skill that you just kind of do. Like, but how, Steve, I'll even put on you, like, how do you kind of know when you're feeling that way, it's time to drop it down? Either of you.
Yeah, for me, I just know that like, okay, this is how I'm feeling right now. I try not to assign judgment to it and not let it rattle around in my head a little bit. And just if you take it out and focus on, again, I always bring it back, focus on what you can control is just moving forward. And just if there's time on a clock, you can just keep moving forward. It seems like an easy explanation, but that like I take it outside of my head and just put it into next step, next step, next step, that kind of thing.
But I want to argue with you. And the reason is because when I think about Adam's example, he had an hour left to go. He was looking like 34 hours and the cutoff was 35. And just the idea that I could keep going and the trail math, not math. And like, how do I stop that? And I'm just asking generically how. I mean, I've gotten better at it myself, but like people have that struggle. Like that's real.
And
Any
then
thoughts?
there's always, I mean, I think too, there's always that if you're not injured, there's always that where you can push a little bit more than what you think you are pushing right now, and that's kind of what I did at the back half of Mogollon when I was behind cutoffs. I was like flying down hills at 8-minute miles when I was like, oh crap, and then I'd hit the next cutoff and I'd be like, man, now I got to keep going. So that race did show me that like, oh, it does hurt, but you can push a little bit harder than you thought you could.
What are your thoughts, Adam? Any on that?
I think that's great. I mean, like there are things you can and can't control, but as long as you keep on moving forward and just try your best. I mean,
Mhm.
like for me, for Scout Mountain, like I was taking it a little more slow just because I had Bighorn 2 weeks later. But I mean, weather was good on both the races as long as you keep moving forward, just not let time slip uh, to a point. I mean, you'll lose a bit during the night and that, but really, as long as you keep on moving forward, just give it your all and hope for the best.
Yeah, I think it's that because I think you even mentioned you started pushing up the inclines a little bit harder too when your mom told you that.
Mhm.
So Steve, to your point, is that there is another gear that we have. Somebody either externally has to tell us that, or we have to believe it about ourselves in that moment. And I think being able to stop yourself in the moment to make that belief conversation, Steve, if there's nobody around you, is huge. And so
Yeah.
otherwise, you're passing judgment, like you said, and you're going to kill yourself. So when you wrote it in the email about not panicking, it sounds so simple, but it's very profound. I think it's
Yeah.
spot on. I think it's an emotion a lot of people have. I think it's high anxiety that we feel. And so I just wanted to explore it because, for those listening that have DNF'd, they can relate to that emotion of, oh crap, what am I going to do now? Because everything I've been planning and training for is just coming to an end and they don't know how to respond. And then also for those who've never had that happen and maybe they're running their first race, they're going to have that emotion at some point in a long race, or they're going to feel like this isn't going to happen, and they're going to freak out about the fact that their race could be coming to an end, and how they respond to that's huge. And so, do you
And
do
that's
any
not to.
mantras? So okay, sorry, no,
I
go ahead.
was, I was gonna say that's not to say I don't feel those because I do.
Mhm.
And like I said, in that one race, Mogollon, I had my Instagram post written in my head why I DNF'd, and then but you just keep moving, you just keep moving forward. That's the name of it. Forward is progress. And then if you didn't make it to the next cutoff, you didn't make it, but you didn't stop at an aid station while you weren't, if you weren't experiencing some sort of stress or something like that.
Steve, I think what we need to do is for those who are listening that are our friends and even those that are our enemies, they should send in to us their text for what we can post at our next hundreds if we think we're going to do enough.
Yeah.
They can go ahead and pre-write, here's the reason I quit my race this week or whatever.
Pretty much, yeah. I had it written in my head. I was like, "Oh, I got lost. I was behind the cutoffs, all that stuff."
Yeah, so if
But
anybody wants to write our DNF script, that'd be fantastic. That's awesome. So excited for you, Adam. You've got like we said, we got the Wasatch coming up in the Bear 100. Now, last year, you ran the Bear 100 in 32 hours, 25 minutes. Like we mentioned at the beginning, the second youngest, I almost said second fastest, second youngest. Yeah, that would have been just a lie. Second youngest finisher in the race's history. So, how do you think this year's race will go? Because the trap that a lot of us fall into is comparing one race time to the next race or the experience year over year when it's the same race. Do you think that's going to be an issue for you? Are you already looking like how you think you're going to perform?
Yeah, so I think I'll be able to perform pretty well this year at the Bear because last year, um, like I mean, I know this course like the back of my hand. I've been on it for 8 years, and a lot of runners can say that about a lot of different races, and things can still go bad. But we spent a lot of time going slow on climbs and just taking time at Tony, just making sure mom was doing all right, and like we burned a lot of time there, and I still got 32:25.
Mhm.
So the goal for this year, I mean, the ultimate goal is just to finish and just finish the slam, finish the series. But I would like to go sub 30 if I can, because then I get the new buckle design. So that'd be nice. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident about this year. As long as weather's good, I think I'll be able to get sub 30. I don't really have a time goal for Wasatch, just making sure that I have energy for the Bear.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
And you have that extra week of recovery too, so it'll be
oh yeah,
golden.
that'll help.
Just no wakeboarding in week 2.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure Ryan is. I think Ryan's doing the Wasatch and also the Bear this year too.
He
He's doing
is.
both of
Yep,
those,
he's
right?
doing the combo again.
So you're going to beat
That's
him in
awesome.
both.
We'll see.
I like to say it for Ryan. I put it on his head.
Yeah.
So, well, how do you then avoid being overconfident in the Bear?
Probably just knowing that like time isn't the main goal. Like for the Bear, like I'd love to go sub 30 if I can, but once again, it just goes to just the main focus, which is just finishing the slam. Like I can be confident in areas, but can't be like just can't be too cocky about it.
I think it's a real issue. Steve and I, we were prepping for tonight and we were talking about that particular topic. I remember the first 100 that I ran, and let me rephrase that, the first 100 that I finished, because the first 100 I ran was a DNF. So the first 100 that I finished, after that, I then signed up for another one and thinking, oh, it's going to be easier because I've done that. And I think the challenge begins to be that we lose sight of the fact that every single one of them is hard. It can be a 50K. I've DNF 50Ks at this point in my life. Like, they can be hard. And so the challenge I think we all face as runners, not just you, like all runners are faced with, is that when they run a hard ultra and they go to run another one, is that they lose sight of the fact that they're all hard. And so I'm always telling people, respect the distance, even if it's just a mile.
Gotta respect the distance. Yeah. Yep. Always.
So that's all that I have for you, Mr. Wolf. Cool. You've gone through all my notes. We normally, Steve, do you have any other questions before I move on?
Well, so, I mean, do you have, what's on the calendar after you finish up with this? You got 200 in mind?
Oh, I don't know. 100's a lot. 100's good enough for me right now. Maybe one day I'll do like a 135 or something, see how that goes. But
there's a hot one.
Yeah, there's a hot one.
I don't know if I'll ever consider Badwater. I mean, kudos to Bob and everybody else who does that, but I think I'd burn too crisp. But as far as what's on the calendar after Wasatch and Bear, that's really all for a little bit. I'm going on a LDS mission shortly afterwards. Starting in January, I'm heading off to Bentonville, Arkansas. So that puts a 2-year break on races. I'll still do some running out there, but as far as afterwards, we'll just see what happens. But right now, the Rocky Mountain Slam is really the big goal of mine.
Not to be a tempter, but I think the Arkansas 100 is in Bentonville.
Yeah, I don't think my mission president would approve that, but it would be fun though.
I said not to be a tempter. I was just trying to get you in trouble. But you could just throw it out there and say, hey, maybe.
I was thinking,
I had this idea. Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. Beside the point. Well, probably don't do that. I was just kidding. Yeah. Bad jokes. I know. Arkansas Traveler 100. It's in the Bentonville.
I hear it's a beautiful area.
It is. Great trails.
Almost, you're getting them a little bit.
Yeah. You're in Utah. Utah's incredible. I mean, you are in prime real estate for running ultras and just the beauty of terrain. So you're going to come to the south and southeast and be very disappointed in us, but that's beside the point. So jokes, you're going to love it. It's hot. But beside the point. So that's all that we have. Normally at this part of the show, Adam, we do a segment that we call Coach's Corner, but our listeners failed us.
Come on.
Right, Steve?
They didn't send anything in. Yeah, they didn't send anything in.
Right. We love them, but they must hate us. Just kidding. They did not send anything in, unfortunately. Unfortunately, they did not send a question in this week, which is okay too. If they do send one in, we typically do read it out to the guest and kind of work through that question and stuff. So if you've listened to any of the episodes, this is what we would normally have done. But since we don't have that for you this week, we apologize. No question for you. That being said, those listening, if you want to ask us a question for us to bring onto the show next time, please send it in. We are going to be having a very good episode next time as well with a guest that's going to be all kind of details about foot care. And so if you've got issues and questions about feet, as random sounding as that is, please let us know. Yes. But with that, Adam, what's the best way that people can keep up with you?
Probably through Instagram. My Instagram's AdamWolf07 or just Adam Wolf Runs. Eventually I'll make a Facebook for the mission, but as of right now, that's probably the best way to reach me, just through Instagram.
Awesome. And so for those listening, make sure you follow Adam on his Instagram account because, like I said, this episode is coming out on the 19th of September. So if you're listening to it on the day it was released, he will have already finished the Wasatch and he will be getting ready 1 week later to run his finale, the Bear 100, and wrapping up that series in a sub 30-hour race with the new buckle.
Yep.
That's what I love to hear. All right, man. Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you, just everything you've done. Like I told you before the show, you do inspire me. And I confessed to everybody before, I typically look at those that are older than me and find them to be inspiring. But when I started doing some research on you and saw your history, you are just a very accomplished runner. And I think you bring a lot to the sport. And it's great really just to connect with you and get to know you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those that are listening, thank you for taking the time to download us, to put us in your ears, and to take us on your run with you. Hopefully, hope you had a great run. Go take a shower and get cleaned up. But thank you for doing that. And if you could do us a favor, leave us a like, leave us blah, 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 blah. I can't speak. Leave us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe to the show, either through Spotify, Apple, or listening to us through YouTube. Either one of those are fine. So thank you for that. And with that, Adam, thank you. We appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great talking to you guys.
All right.
Awesome
Steve,
having
anything?
you too.
Yeah. Any other thoughts from you, Steve? Any other closing thoughts?
Nope. I
All
think
right.
I'm good. I couldn't have said it any better myself, Jeff.
Well, I stumbled through half of it, but thank you all again. And we will see you next time. See you guys. Bye.